Hi, and welcome to Stamp with Ginny. Today I'm going to share with you how I made this sweet little birthday card with a shaker frame using the framed florets, dies, and coordinating stamp set for the sentiment. And of course, everybody loves a shaker frame, and who wouldn't love this special card for their winter birthday? So let me set this aside and I'll show you how to get started. To create the shaker card, you're going to need the frame florets dies, and you're specifically going to need the 2 frames from it. I'm going to cut the smaller frame in real red, and then I'm going to cut the larger frame in both basic white and the window sheet. And just a tip on the window sheet, you may have to shim it or run it through several times. If it doesn't cut cleanly, then simply use your paper snips. I'm going to start with my basic white circle and my blending brush, and I'm going to pick up some of the balmy blue ink, tap off, and then I'm going to go around the frame. Now I want to go fairly far into the frame because I want this color to show, and I'm using the balmy blue to coordinate with my cardstock, or I should say my designer series paper, and kind of highlight those sequence so they show up a little better. Once I have that done and smoothed out the way I want, I'm ready to stamp my sentiment. And I happen to be using the Birthday Wishes sentiment from the coordinating stamp set that comes with these dies. So I'm going to stamp that right in the middle. There we go. I've got my stamping done and I'm ready to build my shaker. So let me show you how I did that. Okay, to build my shaker frame, I am going to start with the outside edge in my foam adhesive strips. Now the key to this here is not to leave any gaps that your sequins are going to fall out of. And because I'm using the coordinating frame, I want this right up against the edge. So let's see, I'm going to pick it up so I can see it a little better. Tap it down. These foam adhesive strips are designed to create shaker frames, so they're very bendy and you can adjust them to the shape you want. I've got my first adhesive strip down here and I'm going to rub my finger around that just to make sure it's seated well. And then I'm going to bring another strip in. Now these strips, as you can see, can be cut down easily to the length that you would like. I happen to have these cut in half so that they were a little more manageable and I could work on them the way I wanted. So I'm going to add that second strip here and once again run over that edge so that I know it's nice and tight. And then I'm going to pull up the end piece here, and I'm thinking I need about so. And so I'm going to take that third piece and simply tuck it in. It's a little large, so let me take my paper snips and I will trim it. Like I said, the main thing is you're not leaving a gap for those sequins to escape once you have it on your project. And you can even turn it over and burnish it a little bit to make things go a little easier. Now, since this is a 3D project and I want it to hold really well, I'm going to bring in my tear and tape. And of course you could do this before the shaker goes on if you would like. I'm going to place a strip along the back and tear, and then along the front, just so that I've got a lot of adhesive here that's going to hold it in place well, and across the bottom and tear. And so now that I've got that on there, I can burnish easily before the sequins go in and adjust as needed. If you have a little bit of adhesive over the edge, you can trim that off so it doesn't peek out from under the frame. A little easier now to do than once the frame is put together. Okay, I've got that done and I'm going to bring in my sequences. Now, how many sequins you put in your shaker frame is up to you, but I do find you will want to remove this edging first. That protects that adhesive along the edge because it's just easier to do before you get those sequins in. Now you will have to be careful when you're putting your sequins in not to get on that sticky edge, but I'm going to add a couple of pinches. This is a personal preference, of course, if you like lots of sequins or if you just like a few. And of course getting them to come off your finger is also part of the equation. You can use your embossing buddy, of course, if you're finding you have a lot of static cling, and that'll help reduce things sticking. But you do need to be careful so you don't affect the stickiness. I'm going to set this down in the center of my sheet because that also has a little bit of sticky. And I just need to make sure that when I flip it over, I line up the edge, and as you can see, those sequins are popping onto that window sheet, and that's okay. As long as you've got them in the center, you'll do fine. I'm going to run my bone folder around that edge just to seat that into the adhesive nicely, so I know I've got a good firm hold, and then I can shake. Now to add my frame, I'm going to bring in my mini glue dots, and I like to use mini glue dots because the window sheet is kind of slick, so you need a strong adhesive that will adhere itself to the window sheet. And I'm going to add, oh, I don't know, let's see, can you see what I'm doing? I'm adding them spaced out around the frame. You can fold them back on each other, or onto itself, I should say, if you've gone over the edge. That's perfectly fine. They'll stick to themselves without a problem. And let's see, I think I need one more in the center of this gap here. So there you go, so you can see it. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to carefully lay this right on top of my shaker frame and press down, lining it up with the edges. And as you can see, I've got this beautiful shaker frame that's ready for my project. I'm now ready to build my penguin, so I'm going to bring in my penguin builder punch, and I'm going to punch out his body and set that aside. And then I'm going to punch out his tummy. And finally, I'm going to punch out two of his little feet. I just love this guy for winter birthday cards. He's cute and adorable, and who doesn't love penguins? So I've got my pieces and I'm ready to stamp his face. I'm going to bring in the two eyes and stamp them with the memento. And then I'm going to bring in his little beak and stamp with the pumpkin pie. I've got, oops, that's a little light, so let's flip him over and do it again. I'm going to do his beak first, since I've got that in my hand, making sure I've got plenty of ink better, and then I'm going to stamp his eyes. There we go. Okay, I've got all my pieces now, and I'm ready to assemble his body. So I am going to bring in my adhesive and adhere him down onto the basic black portion. And whether you line him up against the bottom or whether you send him his little face, that's up to you. I've got both of his feet here out of the pumpkin pie, and I'm going to use a mini dimensional and simply pop that on the center, and then I'm going to remove the backing. There we go, and adhere his little feet. And I'm going to kind of put them on whimsically, facing two different directions, kind of angled out versus having them straight up. There we go. I've got my penguin done, I've got my shaker frame done, and I'm ready to assemble the project. Okay, I've got my card folded here on the score line, and I'm ready to add adhesive to the back of my Balmy Blue Designer Series paper. This happens to come from the Subtles collection and has all of the Subtles colors in the pack, making it a great value. I'm going to adhere this down like so. And then I'm going to bring in this mini ruffled ribbon. It's just too cute, and I love the contrast between the balmy blue and the real red. I'm going to wrap it around, and I'm going to make a simple knot. Let's see, I think I'm going to make a bow. Since this is a shaker frame, I don't have to worry about height and how things are going to be for the male, since it's oversized anyways. So I'm going to make a pretty little bow with this mini ruffle ribbon. I just love it. It ties well, it lays lovely, and it just has so much texture to it. I'm going to trim the two ends. Let's see, I'm going to adjust this ribbon up a little bit, and I'm going to slide it by bowing this cardstock all the way over to the right-hand side. And since this wraps around the inside of the card, you do want to make sure that's flat and not a problem. And what I'm looking for here is the fact that my oval will lay and I'll have enough room. So I can slide this just a little bit to the right. There we go. And adjust as needed. The really strong adhesive is part of the reason I can use this beautiful ribbon. I know it'll stick well and it'll hold in place with no problems. So I'm removing the backings off of my tear and tape. I'm going to bring this in, and let's see, I'm going to adjust that down a little bit, and I'm going to adhere it like so. Now you can rub this on the back side just to make sure that is burnished well. And then I'm going to bring in this adorable little penguin. Now I've used the shaker frame, which is a little higher, and so I want to make sure my penguin either is on the frame itself or I've added adhesive to it. So you can take a piece of the foam strips and add it to the left side to make it the same height, or you can attach it to the frame, whichever you prefer. And I think I'm going to attach this little guy to the frame, and so I'm going to use my tear and tape again and add a piece down the center of him. Let's see, my finger caught that, so I'm going to remove that backing and add in a shorter piece next to it, just so that I know I'm going to catch that frame. Okay, now that I've got him on there, okay, I've got the backing of the tear and tape removed, and I'm ready to adhere my little guy right onto that shaker frame, like, let's see, like so. Real cute and easy, and I've got this beautiful shaker card for someone's birthday. It's that quick and easy. I hope you've enjoyed this project using the Penguin Place stamp set and punch, along with the sweet little shaker frame. And of course, if you'd like any of these products, feel free to stop by my online store. You can get there from my blog, Stamp with Jini. Thanks for joining me.